Hello, welcome. I am Martha, sharing with you Embrace Your Vibrance with Martha, teachings, learnings, explorations that are going to be bringing you into more of your inner vibrancy so that you can experience more freedom and aliveness in your life. So happy that you're here. And now I'm going to share with you a little bit about my past and how I got here and why I have a lot to share with you. So, I'm going to go back to the fact that my past, I had a very privileged life. All of my needs were always met in terms of my, being cared for. And yet something inside didn't feel right inside of me. Like I would, I would look to others to make me happy. I would feel like there were things wrong with me in a very deep unconscious place. And so, although everything on the outside looked really good, on the inside, I was not full of love and inner vibrancy. Yep, there were sort of jagged edges in my past. And so when I had my darling baby, and he was a year and a half old, and my former husband told me that he wanted to split up, and it was a big, huge shock to me. And I was just like, taking care of a 1.5-year-old child full time, and it was a huge, huge shock. And I remember a few days after this occurrence, it was in July, I remember, I was walking up East End Avenue in Manhattan. And I remember saying out loud, like I was thinking about what was happening in my life and the turmoil that it was causing. And I remember saying out loud, this is not going to ruin me. I choose life. Something in me like decided at that moment, I think it was like 3 or 4 days after this incident, that I was going to choose life. At that point I had known a lot of women who were 20, 30, 40 years later still angry, resentful of their former husbands. And I said, I am not going to be that. I am choosing my life. And that was really the beginning of me deliberately doing the opposite of that which was natural, and choosing myself and choosing to move forward in the positive, in the light. And I remember that moment so clearly, and didn't realize the impact that it would have. But I do believe that that was like a big turning point, that I decided to show up for myself in new ways. And the way that manifested was going and prioritizing yoga. So at this time, this was 20 or so years ago. Yoga was not popular, but I was doing yoga videos at home, and I was going to yoga classes. And although I was trained as a dancer, and I was I worked out a lot, I was into exercise and fitness, something was happening at the end of these yoga classes that I couldn't understand. I didn't understand what was happening. I knew that I just felt fantastic after the class was over. And so I'd walk into the class, full of anxiety, a little bit of depression, and, just like completely up, my life was like up, there was an upheaval, right? And I remember going into the yoga studio or beginning a yoga class with one state of mind. And then by the end of the class, I was in a completely new state of mind, feeling calm and empowered, and in a place of just feeling good inside. And so what I realized was that I want to prioritize this more. Like, I know that this is good for me, and therefore anything that's good for me is going to be good for my son. And so I decided at some point very early on that I'm prioritizing yoga. I'm going to make it a very important part of my life. Now, at the time, I was like, struggling with do I go back to work? What work do I do? I'm not barred in New York City, or not barred in the state of New York. So, what kind of work can I even do? But at the same time, I was going through, complete trauma and upheaval of my home life. And so there was an inner voice in me, and I listened to it. And I really like applaud my younger self who listened to that voice and prioritized yoga in terms of the cost of yoga classes and the time spent away and the babysitting that it costed, etc. So by really prioritizing yoga and making it an important part of my life was the launching pad for this new paradigm and all of like the body of teaching that I have teachings that I have embodied in these 22 years that I am going to be sharing with you in these videos, which I'm so excited about because I know that everything that I share with you works for me, and I know that a huge percentage of it will work for you. Now, everyone's unique, I understand, and I honor your uniqueness and our differences. And I also know that that which I'm sharing is universally helpful and opens us up to more vibrancy. So that's a little bit of story for you. And of course, the divorce became probably one of the best things that happened to me. It woke me up into learning about relationships and what they are and what they aren't, and how to navigate relationships in a different way. It propelled me into like becoming an expert in relating in terms of the wisdom that I have from it. Of course, it's always challenging with in practice. So we're all human, but I do know that I have an enormous amount of wisdom in the relationship realm because of it. And most importantly, enormous amount of wisdom about the importance of prioritizing that which we know is good for us. Now, you know that eating crappy food doesn't make you feel good, right? You know that certain things that you do or certain people that you're with aren't good for you. And so in this video, I am here giving you permission to honor that which you know inside is good for you. Let's breathe that in together. Inhale and exhale. And inhale and exhale. One more. Inhale, breathing in that which you know is good for you, and exhale. It's really about honoring ourselves, honoring the part of us, not from the mind, but from an inner knowing, from our wisdom body, from our heart, from our life force energy, to start to dismantle the hold that the mental framework has on the control that our mental framework has on our psyche and the way we participate in our lives. And I'm inviting you to begin to dismantle that, so that all of the notions of, well, I should be doing something, or I have an obligation to do something, or I feel indebted to do something, or I feel so scared about the way someone else is going to feel about me that I can't do it or I can do it, to really recognize, start to unwind and recognize that our overthinking and over-dominant mind has caused us a life of mediocrity. And our inner vibrancy comes from, our inner vibrancy really comes from following that which we know is good for us, following that which we, from our bodies and from our souls, it's like an inner feeling, you know it. And so I'm really here to encourage you to follow that. Breathe that in and breathe out. As an attorney, I was trained so much to think in my mind. In my childhood, I was taught to override my truths. And so really understanding that it is your truth, your truths about anything that allow your soul and your mind and your body to become integrated, to become one. And for me, it was about prioritizing yoga and prioritizing, that which I knew was really good for me. So is there something in your life that you know is good for you that you're not prioritizing? And if so, I invite you to prioritize it. Honor it. It's part of honoring you. It is actually essential to honoring you. All right. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.